With me now, Republican Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky. He supports withdrawing from the Paris climate deal. Senator, thanks so much for joining us. We anticipate that President Trump is going to announce not only that he's withdrawing, but that he does want to have a better climate deal. What might a better climate deal look like?
Well, first, you wouldn't lose 6 million American jobs. I think one of the reasons President Trump was elected is that he promised that he would defend the American worker and defend American jobs. There are estimates that this agreement, which is unfair and punishes America in a much greater fashion than other countries, that we would lose 6.5 million jobs. Meanwhile, countries like India and countries like Iran, we would have to pay them to reduce their carbon emissions. I can't imagine a worse agreement than this thing for the American worker. But I think this is something that President Trump promised the voters. He was going to keep American jobs here, and he wasn't going to sign crazy agreements that don't have our best interest at heart.
Where would these, I don't know what study you're referring to, Senator, where would these 6 million American jobs come from? It seems like a rather dire prediction.
Well, they're in the energy industry. A lot of ours have been lost in Kentucky. We've lost, nearly 90,000 jobs in the coal industry because of excessive regulation. So if America, under this accord, has to reduce her carbon input by 20%, but China doesn't have to reduce their carbon footprint at all, how could that possibly be fair? Who in their right mind would sign something that says China doesn't have to do anything and we have to reduce? When you reduce your carbon footprint, it means you're going to have to reduce your energy output, or you have to convert to other sources, but there may not be enough energy from the other sources. And so then we're talking about going without energy.
How much
jobs are
should
related
the US,
to American jobs.
How much should the U.S. reduce its carbon footprint?
Under the accord, it's about a 20% reduction.
Right, no, but how much do you think it should be?
China doesn't have to reduce it at all.
How much do you think it should be?
Well, I don't know if anybody can tell you right offhand the number. I can say we should try to constrain pollution. We should try to control pollution. And I think we have been doing that for 50 or 60 years. And I think we should continue. But, your previous guest sounded like, my goodness, the sky is falling. Mass extinction? Really? So I don't think we should be alarmist about this. I mean, the planet's 4.5 billion years old. We have gone through great extremes of climate change, natural, and now we may have a man-made influence as well. But these people, the question I always ask these alarmists is, how much is nature and how much is man? They act as if it's a given that man is the only source of climate change. Well, my goodness, the great climate changes in our history all happened before the Industrial Revolution. So is there climate change? Can man have an impact? Yes, but let's don't be so alarmist as to say such outrageous things that if we don't sign the Paris Accords, there's going to be mass extinction. That is a ridiculous statement.
Well, I don't know if it's a direct cause and effect relationship, but obviously scientists, you can go on to the nasa.gov website right now and see what the effects are of man-made climate change. I mean, some of them.
But if you look at the accord, even the intergovernmental committee that promotes all of this, even they say it might be 0.2 degrees over 100 years. And you also need to make sure your viewers know that most of their modeling has been wrong. They readjust their modeling every year because they haven't been very good at predicting things. Predicting the future is notoriously difficult, and this is modeling is not an exact science. It is a science that has variability and probability.
But they have been predicting for years that temperatures would go up, that glaciers would shrink, that sea ice would disappear, that oceans would rise, that the sea level would rise, that there would be longer and more intense heat waves. And all of that has happened, Senator. All of it has happened.
Yeah, but Jake, before man was even on the planet, before we even were burning fires, the oceans were 300 feet shallower. When people walked across from Asia, probably 20, 30,000 years ago, maybe up to 100,000 years ago, the seas were 300 feet shallower. That's why they could walk across the Bering Straits.
Are you really saying that man is not contributing to climate change? I mean, is it? Do you really?
What I'm saying, what I'm saying, and this is the big argument that none of you guys get and nobody ever looks at, is how much is nature and how much is man? I'm perfectly willing to admit that man can have an influence and that we should minimize our pollution. But those who say that it is all man and don't acknowledge that the 4.5 billion-year-old planet has gone through massive climate change based on natural effects. I don't know if
it has gone through climate change, absolutely, but not to the degree that we've seen in the last century. And let me just read this.
This is from the NASA.
Absolutely. Let me read this.